Okay, so replacing the induction fan on the Aillio Bullet V2, I think it is, R2, whatever, the newer one in 2020. I've got 3mm hex key that came with the kit. I've got a Phillips screwdriver that came with the kit, and I don't know how much this hex key is. Maybe it's a 4, maybe it's a 5. I don't know. It's in the kit though. These are what you're going to need to get to it. The instructions that I was sent were not clear, so I had to figure it out myself. Take off that button part. For step 1. Step 2, use your 3mm hex key, and you've got 1, 2, 3. Oh, forget that. We've got these first. You have 4 of these. 1 in here, 2, 3, and 4. And if they fall on, it's no big deal. Thanks, Sweet Maria's, for showing me that, because they'll come out with the other plastic piece. This part was not in the instructions, but I found another video from Sweet Maria's on how to do this. So it wasn't related to this repair, but it was including this part. I'm just gonna put these on this side so I don't forget them or lose them. All right, get this guy out of the way. We might need it later. Okay, now we've got 1, 2, 3 hex keys on this side. There are 3 on the other side too. I don't know if I can turn it for you. Oh, there are 4 on the other side. My bad, there are 7. Let's see if we can show you for a minute. On this side we got 1 down here, 1 right here, and 1, 2 up here. That's not showing it. 1, 2. Alright. I'm gonna unscrew all that. The instructions highlighted 4 of these. 2 on either side. It says remove hex keys, and that tripped me up, because you need to remove 7 or it won't work. Down. Five. 6. 7. I'm gonna put these on this side. And my sides are moving this stuff again. Okay, the next part of the instructions say to do something I could not figure out, and I emailed them and they did not respond, and I had to figure it out. So it says to push this. I don't know if it's gonna show up here. Push this little peg in. It says push on this with a small screwdriver, and then you can bend the whole bracket out of the way. That is not what we're gonna do. These are pegs. These don't push in. This is not a lever. These are just straight up pegs coming out of brackets. You need to pull the case off of those. It'll snap out. Pull it gently. You can flex it past those, and that's how we get those off. But before we do that, there are 2 of these things on this little circuit board that need to come out, because it's going to be in the way in a minute when we don't. So there's the tiny, the 2 wired one right here. That's got to come out. And I push it all the way up through the zip tie, not all the way through, but as far as I can through the zip tie, because then it will give me more slack so I can wiggle this bracket out when I get it. And the other one is this 4-wired one. Next to the huge one, there's a 4-wired little pin connector. These will pull right out. It's a lot easier to do it now, push it through the hole there, than it is when you're trying to deal with the bracket, moving the bracket, which is what we'll do now that those are out of the way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go on the opposite side that you see, and I'm going to pull gently to flex the bracket around those pegs so it'll click out, and I'm going to pull it towards that. I guess I can change the camera angle to show exactly. Oh, this won't work. So hand on bottom, hand on top. It's not a very firm pull, it's a slight pull to get it to just click off those pegs, and then I push it right now towards the camera, push it to the back, kind of towards the motor, and we can flex it off of it on this side also. How do we do it? It's not letting go on the top. There we go. And that's how you get it off. You can't push these in. These are like pegs in a bracket. The instructions said to push one in with a small screwdriver. That does not work. It was very frustrating for me. But I figured it out. Oh, and I was using that thing for this, but I don't think it'll reach on this doohickey. So I'll do that and it'll stay and we'll all be happy. If that falls, I'm gonna be upset. Okay, so now that's out of the way. I'll lower this a little bit. Now you can see them all. These big hex keys come off with this. These are the only 3 that use this Allen wrench. They're bigger than the rest. And once you get those 3, this will wiggle right out. Look at the orientation of it. It has a peg on the top, a peg on the side. Oops. A peg on the top, peg on the side, peg on the top, peg on the side. This is that thing you're trying to replace. This fan here is the whole point of this. 1, 2, 3 hex bolts again with the same hex key you're using earlier if you could find it. And this will just pull right out by the metal bracket when you're done with that. I've already replaced the fan. Mine came with this one. I can't focus on it. Mine came with DC brushless model AG06024HB. This one is the same thing except for it's UB, and it's got slightly more amperage, but this is supposed to be the better fan. You just need to take off these 4 Phillips head screws, screw it into the same bracket, and you're good to go. You know. Oh, also, when you're routing it, don't let it go in there. Oh, let's put it there. Don't let it go through this part. It's got to come around the side, and it comes through this little round side part over here. And you have to be able to, it's got to have play where you can push it and move it like that, or there might be an issue. This little thing lines up with that little cutout, the round bit. Push the fan slightly in, and then I push it in through the round bit on the frame. And then it's the same but in reverse for reinstallation. Oh, but you've got to screw the fan on if you haven't yet. I'm not redoing that. I don't want to do that. Don't make these like robot grip tight. They just need to be snug. check this by pushing it in and out, and if it's got play, you're good to go. They included a video that showed you that with the instructions, but I don't know, that's good too. Okay, so back to this. I make sure that of these two pegs, this top one is on the top, and this will be on the right side when I put it back on. Flip it like that. Thread the wire through the bracket, otherwise it won't go on. So the wire does fit through the bracket in case you missed that when we put it together, or took it apart. Alright. This is the long nuts. These are the only ones that are this long. And there are 3. It should go without saying, but there's one that's open because it would go into the fan blade if you put through there. That is the one you don't use. You use the top left, top right, and bottom right. And these are the big hex. So this one will kind of, ooh, I don't like that. This one will snug in more than the other. I don't use the big part of the handle because I don't want to have that extra strength for this. I don't want to strip anything inside. So I try to just fingertips it. Still good, still loose. Check it a million times. Okay. So now we've got to thread this back through. I take this fan wire and I put it through this hole. I don't know if you can see that very well. There are 3 holes, and I put it the one that is this one, closest to the bigger wire, because that's the one that's got to go around. Thread it through, it plugs in right next to it. There's only one way it can plug in, so if you do it wrong, it won't work. But if you do it right, it'll slip right in, and you won't be sure if you did it right or wrong. You will be sure if you do it wrong. Support the circuit board when you're pushing it in. I put my finger underneath it when I push because it's really floppy. Yeah. And then we get rid of the slack we took in earlier for this red and black wire. And this one has a tiny little like ridge. The ridge goes in the slot. That's how that one plugs in. And it wants to wrap around. And again, support the circuit board. Push the clip in. Ta-da. Now we're ready to go. This bump goes on the same side as the motor here. You push it up kind of how it was before. And we're going to have to flex the bracket again to get it around those little pegs. So you'll see the different spots where the pegs will go. There should be spots for the screws to go to around them. Like, just line up all the holes and you should be good. But I'm going to do this side first, the motor side first, because, I don't know, that makes sense to me. Probably works both ways, but I'm doing that side first. And then just pop it over the other side. And there we go. This part might take me a while. I did earlier today. But for all those little screws that go from the bracket to their little black brackets, we've got to line up every hole, kind of. Some of them were harder for me to screw in than others. These 2 on the bottom by the fan were the hardest for me to screw in earlier. So I'm starting with those this time. Maybe it'll be better. Partially screw them all in. Don't screw them all in all the way before you move on to another, because we need all of the holes to line up. This is actually way easier than earlier. That's great. There's 3 on this side. There will be 4 on the other side. 2 on top, 2 on bottom on the motor side. And again, just snug these up. Don't over tighten them. You don't want to strip them, you don't want to break the head off. I don't know if that'll even happen with these. It's not a ton of force needed. I don't know the torque specs, but we're using hand tools. Okay, looking good so far. Nothing's jamming in. Last step is this cover. You can line it up over the exhaust slot on the top. Yeah, it kind of shows it. But like this part cutout will fit around all the metal parts poking up here. So you can line it up pretty easily if you just look at it. Just making sure that this isn't going to be a problem. And it looks good. It looks good. So again, the black plastic goes on the outside of all the metal bits. I don't know if order of screws matter, but I like to put the nasty one that gets all exhausted in on the nasty exhaust spot. And I do it first because I don't know. Again, make sure they're snug, but not like death grip tight. That should all be good. That's it. Hope it was helpful.